Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Aaron Schroeder on behalf of Mr. Howell.
First, when it comes to jail credit, this court sentenced the defendant to 93 days contempt of court consecutive to the underlying files.
Yes.
I have already formally acknowledged to the court that I have made false allegations and provided false information, and I have accepted responsibility for my consequences of those actions. I have also made it clear that the father of my children is not a threat to me or our children. Most importantly, I think about our children. We have 4 children under the age of 4 who need both of their parents. Every day I'm faced with questions, tears, confusion, and the heartbreaking reality that their father is not home with them. I, as a mother, struggle to find the words to explain why he is absent from their lives. 4 years old, have recently been diagnosed with autism. As we begin to navigate therapies, appointments, and developmental challenges and the uncertainties that come with this diagnosis, I find myself at a loss for words. One of our children has never even had the opportunity to meet their father. He has missed milestones, first everythings, and most importantly, memories that can never be recreated. I understand I cannot change the past, but I hope my honesty, my accountability, and my sincere remorse will be taken into consideration. Above all else, I hope for an outcome that allows our children to have the chance of learning love from their father.
I find your statement very sad. You didn't do anything wrong. I understand how very difficult it is to be a single mom. I am a single mom. For most of my life, I worked 5 jobs to pay for those kids. I never received child support. I get it. But here's the thing, man. You chose your kids. And that's the most important decision you could make. I don't believe that you lied, ma'am, and I'll tell you why. The officer noted Beauchamp's visible injuries, including red marks on her neck, a cut on the inside of her bottom lip, and redness and swelling around her right eye. The officer took photographs. You were seeing black dots. He tried to stop you from exiting. You tried to push past him. He punched you in the face a number of times with closed fists. The evidence shows that, man. You want your children to learn love? They cannot do that if there's violence in the home. What children will learn is that love means getting punched, getting strangled, getting scratched and pushed, and all those things that happened between you and him. Love means pulling a gun out. Love means getting struck in the head with the end of a gun. All those things that happen to you, your children learn the definitions of words by what they see and what they hear, what they feel, and what they have been through. Watching you getting beaten and demoted and demeaned. He's the father of your children, and being a good mom, you do not want your children to think poorly of their dad. But man, he's caused them emotional trauma. He's caused you physical and emotional trauma. To the point where you feel guilty about what he did. You feel like you put him behind bars. The only one that put him behind bars is him. I had to hold him in contempt for 93 days because of his behavior. He likes control. He likes the power that he has over people who are not as strong as him. If you die in his hands, you can't be a mom anymore. We can only protect your children by locking him up and getting him treatment. Otherwise, it's going to happen again and again until someone dies, or maybe you lose an eye or an arm. I have seen all of those cases, man. You don't deserve to take blame that does not belong to you, or to tell this court that this didn't happen, because I know it did, because this isn't just you talking. Law enforcement did a good job of documenting your injuries, man. In the heat of the moment, you told the truth. And I want to tell you how brave you are and how proud you should be that you are before this court. But please, tell yourself the truth. Get into some therapy. Don't keep choosing the kind of man that shows love with a fist. He can't be a dad and he can't be a significant other or husband. He just cannot be. He needs some significant time behind bars and treatment. Otherwise, he is a danger and you may end up with a dead child. You can watch my court on Zoom. You can come in here and watch it. You can watch any other judge. We see that regularly.
Am I asking, for him to pay for like therapies?
For therapy or anything else that happened as a result of this, that is your right to ask for.
I'm asking that you consider not only, yes, my mental health, and I will be going to therapy and taking it serious and getting on the road to heal and prosper. His mental is very deteriorating as well.
Well, we're gonna get him treatment, but he needs to pay for your treatment, ma'am. I don't know, there's a crime victims fund, there are certain ways you get paid for. I don't know what's in play for you, but any of the co-pays that you're responsible for, he should pay, so I'm gonna order that.
Non-stop communication or attempts to communicate from the defendant to the victim since the arraignment at district court. I have had to present to judges, I think 5 or 6 times, evidence that this defendant has been contacting the victim in violation of his contact order, that he would continue to try and find ways around that. Video visits, calls, messages. He would use other inmate accounts. He would tell her to get numbers. He would try and use fake names. He tried sending it to a fake name, Tammy Levina, but it was to an address that had belonged to the victim. And of course, he signed in it, Tyrone Howell, gave his entire inmate number as well as the entire contact information for the jail. He writes, "Dear Queen, hey, how's everything going? I hope okay. Thanks for not letting me know the gender of our starseed, let alone the name," which is very foul. You know I'm really trying to have a very positive outlook on things, especially when it comes to us. I mean, if us is even a thing anymore, I wouldn't know. I can only assume we're still. I can only assume you're still waiting on me, waiting on my return, just letting you know every night I think of you and our starseed. It's very stressful when I haven't heard from you since September 20th, while still confused about what I did. Like, can't you please have some sort of respect for us and all we have and been through, to tell me what I truly did wrong, for you to leave me on stuck, to leave me on silent, to not allow me to hear our starseed's voices, which again is foul. No one deserves to be treated how you doing me. I really thought you had a pure heart. Please don't do me like that. I love you, Queen, and forever will tell the boys how much I love them, and happy birthday to M. I love you all dearly, and I wish I was home with you. I pray for us every night. I hope you still want us as bad as I do. You said you could wait 3 years. Don't allow our starseeds to see you with another. I need you badly, and I pray you still want and need me also. Any way to give you an update on these cases? They still trying to send me up the road. I need you to please show up to my court date on the 28th of January. Not sure the time, but you can look on 30th Circuit Court page. Find Aquilina, and find my name to see the time. But I need your help, please, to win these cases. Please don't allow me to spend years away when you can help me. I just need you to either show up and let them know I'm innocent, or may you write a letter to Aquilina, please, her address. And then there's another letter he put in here. I miss every part of you. If you're doing this to hurt me, you're winning the roll-up. But I would never, the roll-up, that is what was written. But I would never just leave you in jail not knowing anything pertaining to us. Like, don't you think I want to know our newborn name? Correct? Yes, I do. I cry at least once a week thinking about you and the kids. I cried on their birthdays, knowing I'm not there, and I'm crying now because I'm not there to protect them, nor you, from this cruel world we live in. Queen, please don't let them grow up without a dad like I did. We owe it to them. I owe it to them. We used to talk daily, and I even got more charges added because of doing so. Then now you just cut me off. Please show up to court and send a letter. Please keep trying. And he has been telling her from the beginning of this case, this is her fault. He has been telling her that she needs to come and say what she said today to try and make this all go away.
The hearing
He has been
begins
telling
with
her
the
as
Assistant
recently
Public
as
Defender,
5:08
Aaron
p.m.
Schroeder,
yesterday.
appearing on behalf of Mr. Howell. The court
Because
first
he
addresses jail credit,
continued to
noting
call
that
her,
the defendant
calling
had previously
his friend
received
Dorian
93
Price and
days
having
of
him,
contempt in
or I
court,
think it was
consecutive
Pierce,
to the
having
underlying
him do a
files.
three-way
The mother
call
of the
with the
defendant's
victim
children
and
then
telling her
acknowledges that she
it's
previously
also
made
her
false
fault for all
allegations
the
and provided
contacts that have
false
happened in
information.
violation of
She
the court's
formally
orders,
accepts responsibility for
instructing
those
her to come to
actions and
court, make a
explains that she
victim
has also
statement,
made
victim
clear that the
impact
father of her
statement,
children
and they
is not a
also
threat to her or their
to
children. Her
specify
main
about
concern
how
is the welfare
she
of their
needs him
4
out for
children,
their children.
all under the age of 4, who need
This
both
man
parents.
won't
She
stop.
describes the daily
His attorney
questions,
did a
tears,
fantastic
confusion,
job
and heartbreak
advocating
caused
for
by
him
their
and
father's absence.
negotiating with
One
me
child
to
has
give me a
recently been
plea deal
diagnosed with
that I did
autism,
not
creating
want
a
to
need for
give,
therapies,
which was the
appointments, and
36
support
months.
while the family adjusts to
He
developmental
then asked for
challenges
his
and
phone privileges
uncertainty.
to be
Another child
reinstated
has
after
never
the
had the
umpteenth
opportunity to
time
meet
of
the
him
father
being
and
caught
has missed
and
milestones.
confronted in
First
court.
experiences and
He was
memories
told
that cannot
over
be
and over by
recreated.
myself,
The
by
mother
the court,
says
and
she
by his
cannot
own
change the
attorney,
past, but hopes her
over and
honesty,
over. The
accountability,
only thing
and
that
sincere
can lose
remorse
you
will be
these 36
considered.
months
Above
is
all, she wants
misconduct
an
between
outcome that
plea and
gives the
sentence,
children an
which can
opportunity to
cover
learn
many
love
things,
from their
but
father.
specifically
The
for
judge
you,
responds that the mother's
do not
statement
continue
is
to
very sad,
contact
but
the
emphasizes
victim.
that she did
If
not
you
do anything
violate the no
wrong. The
contact
judge
order
explains
again
that she
between plea and
understands the
sentence,
difficulty
you
of
will
being a
lose
single
this
mother,
36
noting that
months.
she is also a
Don't
single mother
do
and
it.
has worked multiple
And then
jobs
he
for her
did it.
children without
He did it
receiving
using
child
other
support.
inmate
She
accounts
tells the
again.
mother that
He
choosing
did
her
it
children
using
is the
having her
most
use a
important
completely new
decision she
phone
could
number
make.
and
The
having
judge
her
says she
use
does not
a
believe the
completely
mother
different
lied
person's
because law
name.
enforcement documented
He
visible
tried to take
injuries. The
numerous
officer
steps to
observed
evade
red
this
marks
in
on the
his
victim's
calls to
neck,
evade
a cut
detection,
inside her bottom lip, and
trying to
redness and
refuse to refer
swelling
her by
around her
name.
right eye.
Even
And
at one point
photographs
saying,
were
this
taken.
definitely
The
isn't
evidence
the
showed that the
victim,
defendant
this
tried to prevent
is
her from
Taylor
leaving,
Hollingsworth,
that she attempted
right?
to push past
On
her,
Monday,
and that he punched her
after
in the
that
face
hearing,
several
he
times with closed
continued to
fists.
message
The
Dorian
judge then
Price
explains that the children cannot learn
at
healthy
9:01
love from
p.m. on
violence
Monday
in the home.
say,
Instead, children can learn that love means being
WTW, I
punched,
don't know what
strangled,
that's abbreviation
scratched,
for.
pushed,
Brother,
struck, or
text
demeaned.
Whoop and
The
say,
judge
I'm gonna
refers to
give
the
my lawyer
defendant
her
pulling out a
number.
gun and
She
striking
gotta
the
be
victim in the
Taylor.
head with the end of
They're
a
trying to
gun.
give me
She
5
emphasizes
years.
that children learn the
He
meanings
then
of
did a
words
video
through
visit
what they
with him,
see, hear,
reiterating,
feel,
check your
and
messages,
experience.
check
Watching
your
their mother
texts,
being
check
beaten
the
and
text I
humiliated
sent.
can affect their
She
understanding
needs
of
to talk to my
relationships.
lawyer.
The judge
She has to
recognizes
be
that the
Taylor,
defendant is the father of
the
the
fake
children
name.
and that the mother
I
does
said
not
on
want them to
Monday,
think poorly of
I
her,
was looking
but
to
says
have
his actions have
the
caused the
Kilbrews
children
nullified by
emotional
his
trauma
actions.
and have
Instead
caused
of
the mother
36
physical
months,
and
I was
emotional
going to be
trauma.
asking for
The mother has even
65
come to
years.
feel that she
I said on
caused his
Monday that's my
imprisonment.
intent
The
was.
judge rejects that idea
And then
and
he
says the defendant
continued to
himself
violate the
caused
orders
his
of the court and then
imprisonment through
try
his
and
own
even use
conduct.
his
The
lawyer,
judge explains that she previously
unknowing to
held the
her,
defendant in
to
contempt for
commit a fraud
93
upon
days
this court.
because of his
Opposing
behavior.
counsel
She
sent me an email
describes
to
him
that
as someone
effect
who seeks
on
control
Thursday.
and power over
And
people
then
who
tells
are
me
not
again
as strong
today
as
to
he is.
continue
She warns
very
that if the mother were
effectively
killed by him, she
advocating
could
for
no
her
longer
client,
be a mother. The
advocating
judge
for me
says
to
the
give
court can
him
protect the children
mercy,
by incarcerating the
grace.
defendant and getting him treatment,
He
because without
continued to
firm
contact
intervention, the
her
violence could
last
happen
night.
again and again
Again,
until someone
as
dies.
late
She
as
notes that she has
5:08
seen cases
p.m.
in which victims lose an eye.
Off
She tells the
another
mother that
inmate
she does
account,
not deserve to accept
off
blame
another
that
lady
belongs
trying
to
to evade
someone
detection.
else, or tell the court that the violence did not
He
happen. The
will
judge says
not
law enforcement
stop.
did a good
He has been
job
given every
documenting the
opportunity
injuries
to
and that
prove
the
to this
victim told the
court that
truth
he
in the heat of
will
the moment.
not
She
continue
praises
to
the mother
violate
for having the
the
courage
orders of
to
this
appear
court
before the
or to
court. The
commit
judge
new
encourages the
felonies.
mother to tell
If
herself
I
the
wanted
truth,
to,
enter
I could
therapy,
charge
and
him
stop
with
choosing
about 9
relationships in
different
which love
counts
is
of
expressed
felony
through
witness
violence.
interference,
She
and
says
now
the
I think
defendant cannot
potentially
currently be a
conspiracy
proper
to
father,
sworn perjury,
significant other, or husband,
And
and needs
stalking.
significant time behind bars and
and
treatment
potentially
because he remains
stalking.
a danger.
And
She
that's
warns
without
that
even
continued violence
addressing
could
the
result in a
underlying
child
facts of
dying.
this
The
case,
mother
which is that
asks
he
whether the
keeps
defendant
beating
can
the
be
mother of
required to
his
pay for
children.
therapy or other expenses
He keeps
caused by
doing
the
it while on
situation.
bond.
The judge explains
The
that seeking payment for
one of
therapy
of the
is the
cases that
mother's
was
right
dismissed
and
didn't
says
involve
that
her.
because
It
the
involved
mother
drug
intends
possession.
to take her
He
mental
committed
health
that while
seriously and seek
absconding from
treatment, the
probation.
defendant should be
Or his other
responsible
case,
for
which
appropriate
that
costs,
probation
including
was
copays
terminated
where
after.
applicable. The judge says there are legal
I'm not
mechanisms
asking
for
for
such
5 years anymore.
expenses and
I'm
indicates
asking you
that she will
sentencing to
address
be
what
top
can
of
be
the
ordered.
guidelines
The prosecutor then
consecutively
describes the
across
defendant's
his files.
repeated efforts
That
to
being
contact the
24
victim,
months
despite court orders prohibiting
consecutive
contact.
with
According to the
67 months
prosecutor,
in file
there had been nonstop communication attempts since the
25-5593
arraignment in
FH.
district court. The
Because
prosecutor says she had to appear before judges
chose
approximately
this
5 or 6 times with
over
evidence
and
showing that the
over.
defendant continued to
He
contact the
chose
victim in
these
violation
actions.
of court
He
orders.
chose
The
these
contacts included
consequences, and
video
he tried to
visits,
rope in the
telephone
mother of
calls,
his
messages,
child.
other
He had the
inmate
mother of his
accounts, and
child
attempts to use
in
false
front of
names.
this court
One letter
just
was
admit
sent
to
under the
our
name Tammy
felonies
Defina
that he
to an
knows
address
are
that had belonged to the
felonies,
victim.
lying to
The defendant
officers,
signed
he
it Tyrone
doesn't
Howell
care.
and included his inmate number
He
and the
made this
jail's
choice.
contact information. The
Give him
prosecutor
what he's
reads the
asked for.
substance of one of the
He
defendant's
did take
letters. He addresses the
responsibility
victim
this
as Dear
afternoon
Queen
earlier
and asks how
with
she is
regard to
doing.
not running
He
the
complains that she
evidentiary
did not tell him
interview
the
for
gender or
Julie.
name of their unborn child
Planned
and
on
says
running.
he is trying to remain
Your Honor,
positive about their
I would ask
relationship.
court to
He
not
wonders whether their
consecutively sentence him.
relationship
I
still
think at this
exists and
point,
assumes that she is
he
still
is
waiting for him. He
losing,
says it is stressful not
very
hearing from
likely
her
about to
and
lose
says
any
he remains
opportunity he had
confused
at
about
boot
what he
camp, which
did
was
wrong.
something we
He
very
asks her to
much
respect
were
their
negotiating
relationship and
regarding,
everything
as
they
the
have been
court's
through.
aware.
Says he thought she had a pure
And
heart and tells her
given
that he loves
that,
her and always will. He asks her to tell the
respectfully
boys
ask
that
we
he
not
loves
do
them.
as
Says he
consecutive,
wishes he were home and
and
says he
not
prays for
top
them
the
every
guidelines.
night.
I think
He
Mr.
asks
Howell
whether
is
she
somebody
still
who
wants the
needs some
relationship
assistance,
and
he
reminds
needs
her that
help.
she had
And
said
I'm
she could
hoping
wait
that
3
the Department of
years. He
Corrections will be
tells
able
her
to
not
assist
to allow
him
their children
with
to see
that.
her with another person. The
Sir,
letter
what would you
also
like
asks
me
the
to
victim
know?
to help him with his
Remember, you're
criminal
still under
cases.
oath.
He asks her
Yes,
to appear at his
I would
January
like you to know
28th court
that
date.
I'm
Look up
not
the
a
time on the
troublemaker.
30th Circuit
I'm
Court
not
website and help him with his
whatever
cases. He
anybody
asks her
opposes
either
me
to appear and say he is
thinking
innocent
that
or
I
write a
am.
letter to the
I'm
court.
not that.
Another letter says
This
he
is just
misses
a
every
love
part of her
story.
and
A
suggests that if
person
she is trying to hurt
that's
him,
in love
she
with
is
his
succeeding.
his
He
woman
says he would never leave
and
her
in
in
love with
jail
his
without
kids.
knowing what was happening and
That's what
asks
I'm
why
not.
she will not tell him the newborn's
No,
name. He
I'm not
says he
no
cries
career
at least once
criminal.
a
You see
week
my
thinking about
background.
her and the
I don't
children and
have
cried on their birthdays because he was not there.
substantial.
He says he
Like I
feels
don't
unable
have.
to protect
I have
them and
misdemeanors.
asks
I'm
her
not a
not to let the
felon.
children grow up
You know
without
what
a
I'm saying?
father. He notes that
So
they used to
that's
speak
all I
every
want to know,
day and
and I
that he
want to say
received
I
additional
apologize to the
charges
court
because of the
for
communications. He again
doing
asks
what
her
I
to
did
appear in
as far as
court and send a
communication.
letter. The prosecutor
Sir,
explains
this
that
isn't
the
a love
defendant had
story.
also
This is
been
a
telling the
horror
victim from the
story.
beginning that the
And you don't
situation
want to
was her
share
fault. He
control.
pressured
You
her
don't
to
want
come
to
to
share
court and
love.
repeat
You
statements that
want
would help make
to
the case
always be the
disappear.
guy
The
in
prosecutor
control.
says he was still
And you
doing this
use
as
your
recently
fist
as
and you
5:08
interrupt me
p.m.
when
the
we're trying
previous
to
day.
continue.
He
This is
used a
another
friend,
night
identified as
between,
Dorian Price, or
because
possibly
I
Pierce,
can,
to
every
arrange a
word you
three-way
say, we
call
need
with the
another
victim.
93
During that
days.
communication, the defendant allegedly told the victim that she
You're
was
the one that took
responsible for the
yourself
contact
out of
violations
the
and instructed her
lives
to make a
of the
victim
mother of
impact
your
statement,
children and your
saying that she
children
needed him out
by
for the sake of
your
their
vile
children. The
actions against
prosecutor
them.
says the defense attorney had done an excellent job
It is not
advocating for the
lost on me,
defendant
as I
in
said to her, that
negotiating a plea
she
deal of
came in
36
here
months, which the
claiming
prosecutor
fault for
says she
all of
did not
it.
want to offer originally. The
That's
defendant
your
later
fault.
asked for his phone privileges
You
to be
made her
restored after
feel
being
like
caught and
everything was
confronted repeatedly.
your,
He had been warned by the
her fault,
prosecutor, the
your
court, and his
imprisonment,
own attorney that
your
misconduct
harming
between the
her.
plea
Well,
and
you can say
sentencing could
no,
cause him
but
to
I
lose the
know this
36-month
pattern
agreement.
very
He
well.
was
I see
specifically
it
warned that
regularly,
violating the
and
no
she
contact
should
order
not
again would
have
cause him to lose the
thought
offer.
that
Despite
it was
these warnings,
important
he
in front
continued
of
contacting
you
the victim. He used other
to
inmate
tell me
accounts,
she
had the
lied
victim
and
use
she
a
was
new
at
phone
fault.
number,
She
and
didn't
used
do
another
anything
person's
wrong. You
name.
did it
He
all wrong,
allegedly
sir.
tried to
You're not
evade
a
detection
dad.
by refusing to
You're a
refer to the
sperm
victim
donor.
by her actual name. At one point, he
Even
claimed
if
that
you
the
didn't
person
lay a hand
involved
on
was
them,
not the
sir.
victim but
They
Taylor
know what's
Hollingsworth.
going on. They
Using a
hear the
fake identity,
screams, the
the
cries, they
prosecutor
see it.
describes additional
You
messages to
harmed
Dorian
your
Price.
children as
On Monday,
much,
at approximately
maybe more, than
9:01
you
p.m.,
even
the
harmed
defendant
her. And you
reportedly
can
said
say
he
no,
would
but
give
that
his lawyer the
denial tells
victim's
me you
number
need
and
a
that she
long
had to
time
be Taylor,
away.
because prosecutors were trying to
You
give
don't
him
think you
5
did
years.
anything
During
wrong.
another
You did
video
everything
visit, he told
wrong.
the recipient to check
Now
messages
speaking
and
of,
texts and repeated
What
that
would
the
you like me
victim
to know,
needed to talk to his
sir?
lawyer
I'm
using the
not
fake name. The
what you
prosecutor
perceive me
says
as.
the
You
continued
perceive me as a
violations
biased
changed her
person
sentencing
already. You
position.
perceive me as an
Instead of
evil
requesting
monster
5
already.
years,
I'm
she
not
intended
those
to ask
things,
for
Your Honor.
65 years.
Already?
She
I
says
have
the
our measured
conduct could support
history here,
approximately 9
sir.
felony witness
I
interference
read
counts, as
already
well as
some of the
potential
things
conspiracy
in
to
the
suborn
record
perjury
that
and stalking
happened here.
charges. These possible
Are
charges were
you telling
separate
me
from
that
the
she didn't
underlying
have
domestic
a
violence
crack
case.
whip, that
The
there wasn't
prosecutor
swelling on
also
her
states that the
forehead,
defendant
that
repeatedly assaulted the mother of
you
his
hit her with a
children while
cell
on bond.
phone,
One dismissed
that she
case
had red
involved drug
marks on her
possession and
neck,
was allegedly
a
committed
cut
while he was
inside her
absconding
bottom
from
lip,
probation in another
redness and
case. That
swelling around her
probation was
right
later
eye. You
terminated.
punched
The
her in the
prosecutor
face.
asks the
You
court to
tell me none of
sentence
that
at the top of the
happened?
guidelines and
It didn't
consecutively
happen,
across the
Your Honor.
files, requesting
It
24 months consecutive with
Let me just
67 months in
understand.
file.
She just came into the house looking like that.
255593FH.
Is that what
She
happened?
argues that the defendant
I wasn't
repeatedly
there, Your
chose
Honor.
these
I'm
actions
not
and
sure.
consequences and tried to pressure
Oh,
the mother
now
of
you
his
were
children
not
into
there.
making
So when
statements
police
that could amount to
arrived, that was
felonies,
an image of
including
you,
lying to
that was
officers.
somebody else
She says he
impersonating you?
knowingly made these choices. The prosecutor acknowledges that the defendant did
literally
take
pled guilty.
responsibility
I
earlier in the
understand.
day for not
Yeah, I
proceeding
did.
with
I
the
pled guilty
evidentiary
to
hearing
take
that
a
had
plea,
originally
yeah, for
been
sure.
planned. The
I
counsel
did that.
asks the court not to impose consecutive
But I'm not
sentences
with
and not
what
to
you
sentence
you're
at the
saying.
top
You
of the
saying that like
guidelines.
I'm just
Counsel says the
some
defendant
angry
is likely
monster or
losing
something.
the
I'm not that
opportunity for
angry
boot
monster.
camp,
Then you
which had
called
been
me a
part of the
sperm donor,
negotiations, and
which is
argues
very
that he needs
disrespectful. I'm
assistance
not.
in
It's not
treatment. The
disrespectful,
defense
sir.
hopes the
When
Department
you
of Corrections
insult
can provide the help
the
he
mother
needs.
of your
The defendant is then allowed to speak while still under oath. He says he wants the court to know that he is not a troublemaker and is not the person others portray him to be. He describes the situation as a love story involving a man who loves the woman and his children. He denies being a career criminal and says his criminal background is not as substantial as people claim. He apologizes to the court for his communications. The judge immediately rejects his characterization and says this is not a love story but a horror story. She says he does not want to share control or love, but wants to remain the person in control and uses his fists to maintain that control. She warns him that if he interrupts her again, the court can continue the contempt punishment by another 93 days and that every further interruption could result in another 93 days. The judge says the defendant removed himself from the lives of the mother of his children and their children through his own actions. She emphasizes that the mother came into court believing she was responsible for his imprisonment. But the judge says the defendant created that belief through his behavior. The judge says she recognizes the pattern and insists the victim should never have felt obligated to tell the court that she lied or was at fault. According to the judge, the victim did nothing wrong and the defendant did everything wrong. The judge then tells the defendant that he is not acting as a father. She calls him a sperm donor, explaining that fathers protect and defend the mother of their children and the children themselves, while he did not. The defendant objects and says the statement is disrespectful. The judge responds that assaulting the mother of his children is the disrespectful conduct and repeats that fathers do not behave that way. The defendant continues to claim the judge is biased and that she sees him as an evil monster. The judge rejects this argument and points to the evidence. She asks whether he is denying the victim's cracked lip, forehead swelling, red marks on her neck, cut inside her bottom lip, redness and swelling around her eye, and the punches to her face. The defendant says those things did not happen. When the judge asks whether he is claiming the victim simply arrived at the house already injured, he says he was not there and is unsure. The judge highlights the contradiction, noting that he had already pleaded guilty. The defendant admits he pleaded guilty as part of taking a plea, but continues to resist the judge's description of his behavior. The judge explains that she will not withdraw the plea because it was valid. She says she reviewed the evidence, heard the case, and had months of experience with the defendant violating court orders. She warns that there are additional potential crimes across 4 files, including stalking, interference, and other offenses prosecutors have chosen not to file. She concludes that the defendant needs to be behind bars and tells him to stop speaking. She tells him that the U.S. and we, he continues, referring to no longer exist. The victim is free to continue her life. Now as a single mother, raising 4 children while dealing with trauma inflicted by him. The judge says he failed to respect the victim and failed to respect his children because refusing to respect their mother means failing to respect them.
I think we're going to get that
imposes
filled up right
sentence.
now
For
based
count
on what
2,
he's been
assault
telling
with a
me
dangerous
here, so I
weapon,
could have
the
a few
defendant
moments to get
receives
that
24
done.
months to 48 months. For count 3, assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder or by strangulation. He receives 67 months to 120 months, with credit for 257 days served. For count 4, domestic violence and or knowingly assaulting a pregnant individual. Third offense, he receives 38 months to 60 months, with credit for 251 days served. The sentences within that file are concurrent, while the file is consecutive to the other file. The court discusses jail credit and confirms that the applicable credit is given on the felony assault case and that the other file receives 0 days of credit. The judge orders anger management treatment, domestic violence treatment, intensive mental health treatment, and parenting classes during incarceration. The defendant is also given appellate rights, so he can decide whether to appeal. Defense counsel says the paperwork will be completed immediately, and the judge agrees. The court explains that the sentence is based on the entire record, including the many months the judge has dealt with the defendant, his behavior, and his statements to the victim. The judge says he needs time in the Michigan Department of Corrections for reformation and protection of society, especially the young children and their mother. She says the defendant pressured the victim to stand by him, despite the violence, and that a message must be sent. She concludes that the sentence across the 2 files is proportional to the violence and the attitude displayed throughout the case. The defendant asks how much time he has received. The judge explains that 24 months is 2 years and 67 months is approximately 5.5 years, producing a consecutive total of roughly 7 years. The defendant confirms that he has received about 7 years. The judge says she could have imposed more, but stayed within the guidelines. She warns that if he behaves in prison as he behaved in court, he could serve the maximum time and might not see his children until they are adults. Finally, the judge makes the no contact order explicit. The defendant is prohibited from contacting the victim or his children. The judge explains explains that
no
no
messages
contact
through
means
third
no
parties,
letters,
don't
no
fake
emails,
another
no greeting
prisoner.
cards, no
The
messages
warden's
through
gonna figure
third
it out.
parties,
No
and no
contact.
attempts to use another prisoner
One on
or
the
another
other
identity
No
to
contact.
circumvent the order.
I don't know.
She stresses
I
that
guess
there will be
somebody
no
can ask me or
contact
the
and that
warden,
any
but
future
not
request
now.
would have to go through proper
You
channels.
still
She
trying
then
to
notes that the
contact her,
defendant
didn't
had
contact her
continued
last
trying to
night.
contact
Sir,
the
they
victim
haven't
as
stopped.
recently as
This
the
is
previous
stalking
night
behavior.
and says he had not stopped. The
That's all
judge
for the record.
characterizes this
Take them
as
away,
stalking
please.
behavior and ends the proceeding by ordering that he be taken away.